Did you know that Cleopatra was only 39 years old when she died? Her story is so fascinating because it's a tale of ambition, love, and tragedy. Welcome to Facts in History. Today we are taking a journey through time to meet one of the most iconic women in history. You may have heard her name before, but how much do you really know about her? Join us as we explore the life of Cleopatra from her childhood origins to her untimely demise. It's a story filled with intrigue, adventure, and some shocking twists you won't want to miss. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an unforgettable journey into the past. We all know Cleopatra as a legendary Egyptian queen, but what was her life like growing up? Let's start at the beginning. Cleopatra was born on July 69 BC in the city of Alexandria. Her father was King Ptolemy XII, and her mother was Cleopatra Tryphena. However, there's more to this family tree than meets the eye. Cleopatra's parents were actually first cousins, which was pretty common back then among the Egyptian royal family. They had 2 children together, Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, when Cleopatra was only 14 years old. Her father died and both she and her brother took the throne, but they didn't rule alone. Their advisors, Pothinus and Nicias, were in charge of making sure everything ran smoothly while they were still children. As you can imagine, growing up in such a luxurious yet politically charged environment must have been quite challenging. But enough about her humble beginnings. Now let's fast forward to the year 58 BC, when Cleopatra and her brother got married. Yes, you heard that right, brother and sister. This was also a common practice in the Ptolemaic dynasty, and their union was meant to ensure the continuation of their bloodline. But things didn't exactly work out as planned. Cleopatra gave birth to a set of twins, a boy and a girl. But tragically, both of them passed away. Not long after, Cleopatra found herself in hot water when her brother, Ptolemy, accused her of being involved with a Roman senator named Gaius Julius Caesar. According to historical accounts, Cleopatra had given birth to Caesar's child, a baby boy she named Caesarion. Now, this is where things take a dramatic turn. When Ptolemy learned about his sister's alleged affair, he did something you wouldn't expect. He ordered her to commit suicide by means of a venomous snake bite. Talk about a shocking twist. But here's the thing. Cleopatra managed to escape and flee to Rome with her son Caesarion by her side. She left Egypt in the hands of her younger sister, Arsinoe IV. Now, you might be wondering, why would Cleopatra leave her own kingdom? Well, it all boils down to safety. At the time, Rome and Egypt weren't exactly on good terms. And when word got out that Cleopatra had fled to Rome, it caused quite a stir. In fact, Pompey the Great, who was at war with Caesar in Rome, seized her as a hostage. Despite these turbulent times, Cleopatra and Caesar's relationship blossomed, and they welcomed a second son together named Caesar Augustus. Can you imagine the chaos and excitement surrounding the arrival of a new heir amidst all the political turmoil? As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Sadly, Cleopatra and Caesar's story is no exception. In 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by a group of senators. And let's just say, Cleopatra wasn't too pleased about it. She saw this as a threat to her own power and the future of her sons. And guess who she blamed for this dastardly deed? Yep, you guessed it, her sister Arsinoe. Talk about sibling rivalry. Cleopatra believed that Arsinoe had played a role in Caesar's demise, and she was about to forgive her so easily. Fast forward to 41 BC, when Cleopatra made a triumphant return to Egypt. She and her sister put aside their differences and formed an alliance. Together they took on their enemies, including a certain Mark Antony, who was once Caesar's friend but now found himself on the opposing side. However, Cleopatra managed to win him over, and soon they were more than just allies. Yes, you guessed it, they became lovers. Throughout history, there have been countless tales of forbidden love between rulers and their subjects, and Cleopatra and Mark Antony's romance was no exception. Despite the societal norms of the time, they couldn't resist their passion for each other, and their love story became the talk of the town. Cleopatra and Mark Antony had 3 children together, twins named Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and a daughter named Cleopatra Thea. But their blissful romance didn't last forever. In 32 BC, Octavian, who later became known as Augustus, declared war on Egypt. You see, he wasn't happy with Mark Antony's decision to make Cleopatra his heir, so he assembled a powerful fleet and set sail for Alexandria. As the battle raged on, Cleopatra and Mark Antony grew increasingly desperate. They tried to flee to India, but it was too late. Octavian was determined to bring them down. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Cleopatra made a fateful decision. She summoned a messenger and instructed him to deliver a letter to Octavian. In it, she expressed her willingness to surrender, along with a condition. She demanded that her statue be placed among the statues of Venus and her sister Arsinoe. This was her way of asserting her own divinity and cementing her legacy as a goddess in human form. When Octavian received Cleopatra's letter, he agreed to her terms, believing it would save countless lives and bring a swift end to the conflict. However, there was a twist. In reality, he had no intention of honoring her request. Instead, he planned to use it against her. Upon entering the city, Octavian found Cleopatra's statue in the Temple of Venus, but instead of treating it with the reverence it was meant to receive, he threw it into the sea. Talk about a cruel move. This act of sacrilege was not only intended to humiliate Cleopatra, but also to send a clear message to those who supported her. In the aftermath of this devastating blow, Cleopatra knew she was trapped. With her reputation and honor in tatters, she felt she had nothing left to live for. And so she hatched a plan to escape her captors and regain control of her own destiny. But how could she do this on her own? Well, it turns out Cleopatra had a secret weapon, the venomous snake. This highly venomous snake was not only a symbol of her power, but also a means of swift and painless death. With no other options left, Cleopatra decided to embrace her fate and welcome the snake as a final companion. This act of self-determination was not only a bold move, but also a tragic one. Cleopatra chose to die on her own terms, rather than face a humiliating defeat at the hands of her enemies. So how did she fare? Well, let's just say the asp didn't disappoint. Its venom coursed through her veins, bringing her to a peaceful sleep from which she never awoke. Talk about a dramatic exit. And as for her loyal companion, the asp, well, it slithered away, leaving Cleopatra to rest in her final resting place. Historians estimate that Cleopatra lived to be around 39 years old when she passed away. That's barely older than some of our favorite celebrities today. Can you imagine the kind of life she lived, ruling over ancient Egypt, having relationships with powerful Roman leaders, and ultimately meeting her demise in a venomous embrace? It's a story that reads like a Hollywood script, full of drama, intrigue, and a dash of tragedy. Cleopatra's legacy has endured throughout history, and she remains an iconic figure in popular culture. From movies to TV shows, her story continues to captivate audiences and inspire new interpretations. Now we're eager to hear your thoughts. What do you admire most about Cleopatra? Was it her intelligence, her ambition, or perhaps her unconventional choice to end her life on her own terms? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed learning about Cleopatra's fascinating life, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're a history buff or just someone who loves a good story, we've got plenty more where that came from. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Who knows, you might just learn something new and exciting. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.